Daddy, daddy, daddy. Daddy, daddy. Daddy issues. Rumpelstiltskin. Daddy issues. Growing up, we're bombarded with stories or fables by our desperate parents in the dim hope that we'll learn a lesson like don't steal or lie or decapitate the guy at the end of the street just because you waved and he didn't wave back. The problem with this is we do grow up and find our parents' stories to be, how should I say, bullshit. The original stories portrayed a much darker and oddly conflicting lesson from what we were taught, like maybe you should decapitate the guy at the end of the street, pillage and procure many maidens, kill his firstborn, and then steal his Wi-Fi password. Of course, I'm referring to Grimm's fairy tales. One morning, as I continued to grit and bear from what tender passages you find in these fairy tales, I thought, what if these tales are fabrications of the truth? So I took one of my favorites, Rumpelstiltskin, and began to do a little research of my own. What I found will stun you, your children, and possibly impregnate your cat. It's a story of hardship, good deeds unrewarded, the dreams of fatherhood, and fucking magic. You heard me. We'll start with Rumpel's childhood. It was rough for little Rumpel. His dad was an evil sorcerer who carried out ill intent, and his mother was a Presbyterian. It was awful. I don't even want to get into how mixed up it was around holidays and reunions. His father had a passion and love for committing heinous and unrepairable acts against kind folk. He was always away on business, kidnapping some daughter so she could give birth to prophetic and magical goats, or crushing dreams by fucking with the World Series. Little Rumpel started to think that maybe his dad loved doing evil shit more than spending time with his son. One night, little Rumpel grabbed a few spells, magic dust, a blanket, and some Dr. Enough, and then set out to find his place in the world. While traveling, he pulled out a pipe from his side pouch, pinched some magic dust, and began to get properly fucked. But something went terribly wrong. He began to see his father shouting at him, "You were a mistake. If I would have known this was the outcome of killing your mother's family, burning down her village, kidnapping her, and trying to start a family, I would have killed her after sex. Is that my magic dust? You little shit, do you know how much that cost me?" "Ah!" Rumpel shouted, who was, as it appears, having a really bad trip. He ran and then ran off a cliff into a deep river. Rumpel awoke in a faraway kingdom full of beautiful people. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Rumpel is no James Dean. He's not even Gilbert Gottfried. He suffers from bad acne, which people mistook for leprosy. It was that bad. And he was no Yao Ming either. Rumpel never hit his growth spurt. It might have had something to do with his seemingly fucked up genetic disposition, but we don't know for sure. And this was a terrible time for vertically challenged folks. The only job you could get was on the corner where people threw meat pies at you. People thought this was funny. This was before childhood obesity was a big hit. However, derisive glares and laughter paid good coin, and Rumpel would have to support himself as an independent, which is what he would also have to file on his taxes. Lucky for him, he looked like a young Benjamin Button. After many years and meat pies, Rumpel still felt empty, without purpose, and other sappy shit. One day at work, Rumpel watched the crowd as they laughed with joy at the expense of Rumpel and good food. He saw a man and his son. The man patted the boy on the head with a smile as he handed him the pie. Smiling back, the boy hugged his father, grabbed the pie, and chucked it at Rumpel. And at this hallmark image, he thought of his father, and a tear straggled from his eye and landed in what was left of a spoiled meat pie. In memory of his father, he also remembered he possessed great magical abilities. So he turned the crowd into a herd of cattle and said to himself, I'm going to be a great father. In a gamble, he skipped through the kingdom, whistling and singing, I'm going to be a daddy. I'm going to be a daddy. I just have to find someone who will have sex with me multiple times, most likely. Um, we talked about Rumpel's appearance only a little. I just want to recap. He looks like if herpes could walk and talk. It's not pretty. A great guy, just physically repulsive. The women laughed and spat on Rumpel, saying things like, the fuck I will, or it's not you, it's me. Wait, no, it is you. You look like a rotten peach got fucked by a rabid raccoon, and then that raccoon came back and took a shit all over that peach. The constant ejection and graphic detail from these women made Rumpel repine and start to lose hope of being a good father. He knew that if his father had a say on the matter, it would be something like, if you were my son, you would find a childbearing wench, force your seed upon her, and turn her family into field mice so you never have to see them on the holidays. But unlike his demented father and probably like 3/4 of the kingdom, Rumpel believed rape was not cool. And then an idea came to Rumpel. What if I asked the king for help? Is it not his job to grant obscene and improbable requests? It was a long shot, but sometimes you gotta go for the Hail Mary. Rumpel made his decision. He gathered his crummy bit of dignity and left for the castle where he would most likely lose it when he asked the king for aid in this embarrassing matter. The king was attending a special meeting with a silver-tongued miller in a small village north of the kingdom. The miller told the king that his trip would be paid in immeasurable riches. The king, not basking in intellect, replied to this request, Cool. Her Majesty was rarely seen among commoners. By rarely, I mean never. So he came dressed in his poorest attire. I think it was Marc Jacobs. The king approached the miller with his greased-up hair, crown, and skinny pants, and said, Right, brah. What you got? I ain't got all day. Think these pecs pop up overnight? Do how many peasants I gotta beat up and teeth I gotta kick in to get butt dimples? Yeah, I got butt dimples. Check it. Did I mention he's a tool? I should have told you. He's a Craftsman series major fucking royal douche face prick. His two major contributions were creating the highest tax in history and inventing the fist pump, which looks ridiculous with the lyre. The miller explained to the king that his daughter was above average. It's my daughter, sire. She can spin straw into golden twine. In his normal state of confusion, the king replied, what do I need twine for? Dude, I don't sew. The miller, in awe of the king's stupidity, said, It's made of gold. You could be the wealthiest king that ever lived. You might even be as rich as Donald Trump. Shut up! Trump? Like that guy. Makes things great. Says stuff, and people are like, whoa! Yeah, I'll take her. How much? Doesn't matter. I'm rich. Name your price. Well, I am just a simple miller trying to live a humble life since my wife passed, and now I'm losing my daughter. How much? 100,000 coin and season tickets to the brothel. Done. Load her up. Chrissy T, daughter of the miller and gold spinner, was as special as the hair on my ass. If you look too long at this girl, your IQ dropped in the negative. She never spent her days spinning either. Her itinerary was composed of manicures, appointments with hairstylists, and checking out boys at Execution Square. The king set Chrissy T up in a nice empty room in the castle with a cold draft, a spinning wheel with complimentary straw, and rats the size of the Taco Bell dog. As the king was leaving the room, he looked back at the girl and said, Got your straw, Wilmajig? Oh yeah, need that gold by the morning or I gotta cut your head off. Gotta keep my image, you feel? and he left the miller's daughter so he could still make it when they tapped the keg at the royal kegger. Rumpel had snuck into the castle because he was almost certain they would not let him just walk in the front door. As he's walking down the hall, he hears a querulous teenage girl sobbing uncontrollably. He checks it out, and it's Chrissy T. "What's wrong?" asked Rumpel. Chrissy T saw Rumpel and shouted, gross. Stay away from my lady goods. You can't touch this. What are you, like some golem creature that's supposed to scare me into working faster? Well, I'm doing the best I can." "Okay, for one," Rumpel said, "that's fucking rude, and no, I'm not here to have sex with you or scare you. I was just being fucking nice." "Sorry, Golem, don't be mad at me. I'm just so sick of this stupid castle and this stupid king and this stupid guillotine and my stupid dad who's like the worst father ever. Will you watch it, please? You're blocking the little bit of light that's shining through here. I'm trying to keep my complexion. I don't want to be white and pasty like you," ranted Chrissy T. "Sorry," Rumpel said as he shuffled to the right. "I'm sure he's not that bad," soothingly trying to shut this girl the fuck up. Chrissy T gave Rumpel her whatever face and said, "Oh yeah? He sold me into what seems to be an inevitable death." Rumpel thought, okay, she wins. The guy is obviously a terrible father. Rumpel remembered the reason that brought him to the castle, how he was going to ask the king for help. But after listening to this girl, Rumpel thought, this guy is about to sentence a girl to death for not doing what is clearly impossible. He's not going to find me a wife or make me a father. Sounds like decapitation is this guy's thing. Rumpel reached for his neck in a scare, and then turned to Chrissy T. She had stuck her finger in her mouth and pulled out some raspberry goose bubble gum, and was staring at it like a Rubik's Cube. Then she stuck it back in and began to hum that one song by the Lady Gaga. She's an idiot, Rumpel thought, and idiots have babies all the time. I can easily produce what will seem like to any of the small-minded folk in this kingdom a good amount of golden twine, and spare this stupid girl's life. All she has to do is promise me her firstborn. She's so dense, she's probably going to have like 8 kids. I can save at least one of them. Rumpel stood before Chrissy and said, "Young girl, I'm the son of a powerful sorcerer, and I too know great magic. Spinning flax straw into golden twine is as easy as pissing on a boar's head." It was a popular thing back then. They even turned it into like a carnival game, I think. "All I ask is that you hand over your firstborn. That's it. That's all. So what do you say?" Well, Chrissy T exploded off the stool, bobbed her head side to side, gave a Z-snap, and said, "Hold the messenger hawk. Do I look like I have kids? Do I look like I want kids? This pussy is tight and it's gonna stay that way." "Sorry," Rumpel said. "I didn't mean now. Let's say if something happens and you have a child in the future, a long time from now, you can maybe let me raise the kid, and I really think you're missing the point that I'm saving your life. It's this or you fucking die." The girl thought, I'm like never having kids, but dying sucks. And after her Nobel Prize winning thought, she agreed with Rumpel's stipulations. I know what you're thinking. Didn't Rumpel ask for other things from the girl before jumping into the big question? According to Brothers Grimm, he was this treasure-hungry little bastard who refused to work for free. Not true. For 3 long years, Rumpel produced counterfeit golden twine without any compensation. His brilliant plan was mired by an obstacle he had overlooked. All her time was spent in a castle tower. It's hard to get lucky without physically meeting people. This was before Plenty of Fish. Things were looking grim for our pal Rumpel, until one night. Over those 3 years, Chrissy T had matured, mentally, no. Physically, yeah, into a voluptuous young woman. I'm referring to her tits. It got to the point where guards were killing each other over who would serve her roast duck that night. The king, who was surrounded by bodacious babes, noticed Chrissy T was, as he would put it, filling out nicely. The king ordered for Chrissy T to have GTL, Gym Tan Laundry, and meet him downstairs. She arrived in the living quarters with her hair and nails done, bling on, dressed in the latest Castle Club attire. He was looking totally fly. It was a night of dancing, lots of shots, Nicholas Sparks, more shots, and then the king played that one John Mayer song. And that's pretty much, in a bag, how babies are made. The baby somehow survived through a hellacious prenatal cycle of alcohol, cocaine, hoof glue, and more cocaine. Rumpel heard the news and rushed with cheerful glee to behold the sight of his little boy, or girl. But when he arrived, he was met by a court full of angry guards, servants, and the royal family. The king and Chrissy T sat on their thrones with the child sucking on the royal tit. The king rose from his throne, combed his hair, and said, "Hey, brah, Bae told me about how you tricked her into letting you save her life, and how you made whack gold, and now you want to take little bra from us and raise him to be like ugly and stuff." "Babe," said Chrissy T, placing her hand upon the king's v-neck. No, I'm not finished." "Okay, I was finished." Rumpel hit boiling point. You have to keep in mind how much shit this guy was taking for all these years with the brim hope of being a father and proving to the world that not all fathers suck. When her temper rises, we do crazy shit. When Rumpel's temper rises, he releases the fires of hell and rantings of Louis C.K. The king winced and said, "What, bruh? We can talk this out. I got a free gym membership somewhere here." "Shut the fuck up," Rumpel shouted. Who cares? Who cares if you fucking work out? You had a child with what would have been a corpse, but I stepped in. I made that shit happen. I saved a fucking life so that kid could be born. The only thing you two did was what I saw two sheepdogs do on the way over here. I mean, that's it. Your efforts are met by an animal that tongues its asshole for an hour. That's my fucking kid. Mine. The people were frightened at the flaming ball of herpes. And Rumpel noticed the panic and rash thoughts going through the minds of the several guards and servants who just soiled themselves. He knew that if he took the child, he would be hunted and given no chance at a peaceful life. I tell you what, I'll give you 3 days to guess my name. No nicknames, my actual name. If you do that, you can keep the boy. The king and the queen agreed with his terms, and for 2 days the king and queen guessed almost every name in every naming book in the kingdom. Rumpel's name came from a land foreign to all in the kingdom. In fact, it was foreign to Rumpel as well. His father never told him how he got his name. He asked once, and his father said, "'Tis a name like any other, and one that speaks of your good looks." But I think that his father didn't want to tell him that he was named after Rumpelstilts. Rumpelstilts were these little goblin creatures that made a lot of noise and annoyed the shit out of Germans. I guess his parents thought he was an ugly little shit who made too much racket. And that's how he got his name, Rumpelstiltskin. On the second night, Rumpel decided to celebrate. He got ripped. I mean, he was lit Belushi style. He was stumbling around the bellfire, extolling his clever wit, grabbing his dick and shouting things like, "Bitch don't know who she's messing with. I'm motherfucking Rumpelstiltskin." This was unfortunate, because behind the trees a shepherd boy was goading some stray sheep back home. His name was Robbie. Robbie knew Chrissy T when she was the miller's daughter. They were neighbors. I would say they were friends, but it was more like she made him do shit for her, and he did in hopes that he would get some, which he didn't. Poor guy used to practice putting on sheepskin condoms like he was ever going to get that far. Frightened, Robbie held his sheep tight and peered through the branches at her boy Rumpel acting a fool. News had reached the countryside about the Queen's trouble, and a picture of Rumpel was released that greatly resembled that guy on Elm Street who killed Johnny Depp, only smaller. Robbie was half terrified of Rumpel's behavior and the other half horny as that guy who fucked a pie once. This is my chance, Robbie thought. No more Mr. Virgin. He rushed the sheep home and left for the castle. The guards stopped at the gate, but he explained how he could stop the evil Keebler elf from taking the future king. They were not convinced, so he said he was a servant late because of the 5 o'clock rush hour. The guards sheathed their swords and allowed him passage. Walking down the hall, he saw the queen getting a manicure and shouted, "Hey, it's me, Robbie, remember me?" Chrissy's eyes enlarged and she said, "Oh my God, stalk much?" "No," Robbie said. I know the name of the evil little shit trying to take your son." Chrissy paused her manicure. "Well, what is it then?" Rupert Filspin. No, wait, Rumpelstiltskin. Yeah, that's it. I've really missed you. It's been hard without you at the mill. Just me and my sheep," Robbie said, staring at her new rack paid for by the king. "And I was thinking maybe after you save your firstborn, we could do brunch or catch an execution." Chrissy T stopped listening to Robbie after Rumpelstiltskin and replied, "Bitchin'." "Yeah? Great, so I'll catch you later," said Robbie, but the queen and her personal stylist already split. Grinning like a young Anthony Michael Hall, gullible little Robbie believed he had struck gold. Running down the hall, skipping and clapping, he ran into the executioner and made him drop his bread pudding. Robbie was then sentenced to death for spoiling what could have been the best bread pudding ever. It was the third day of the guessing game. Rumpel walked in with an arrogance. He had already bought the crib, all the books on how to be a fairly decent parent in medieval times, and a spell book for beginners. All the kingdom was present to hear the verdict on the future king. "Remember," Rumpel said, "if you fail to guess my name, you have to give me the kid this time. You gotta." The king and queen nodded in understanding, and the queen began to guess his name. "Is it Richard?" "Not quite." "Ruby?" "Not ever." "Then how about Rumpelstiltskin?" "What the fuck? There's no fucking way. You fucking cheated." Rumpel was pacing back and forth, saying, "I don't know how, but you did. You cheated. No way you two asshats could have ever figured that out on your own." He was languished by his defeat. Rumpel, incensed toward the wrong done to him, stomped his foot through the castle floor. "Oh no," said Rumpel. "Who works on your floors? Somebody want to give me a hand here? Anybody?" No one came to help. They thought he was a bad dude. He was alone. And there, wrestling with the floor, he began to think about the throes that followed the day he left his parents. It occurred to Rumpel that maybe he's the one who never gave his dad a chance. But now he was stuck between a rock and another rock. Feeling torn in two, he tried one last time to free his leg and literally tore himself in two. The people in the court jumped and cheered. They started doing jello shots, belly shots, keg stands, and mic drops. The whole while, the corpse of little Rumpel lay in pieces underneath the happy faces and dancing shoes. The DJ was turning up the beat when suddenly the castle door flew open and a beastly-looking apparition appeared. It was Rumpel's father. After Rumpel left home, his father began to raid every country he came across, searching for Rumpel, but he never thought to check medieval New Jersey. And then he saw, underneath a crushed cannoli and a pile of sheep's vomit, what remained of his son. He was uber pissed. But before unleashing hell on these dickweeds, he caught eye of the queen and her son. He thought that since they took his son, it's only natural he take their future king. So he levitated the young babe into his arms, staring in its eyes, said, Promise I will be there for you, so you don't end up carpet for sheep vomit and pastry." As punishment for the people of the kingdom, he imprisoned them in Kathy Bates' vagina. Rumpel's mom and dad tried a more interactive approach to raising the babe. They were present at all soccer games and mercy killings, really supported the little guy. You're probably wondering, I guess, what became of the babe. Well, they called him Pooty Face, but you know him as the one and only Vladimir Putin.